So far, we have discussed the separation of a solid from a solution by the process of evaporation, right? And in evaporation, we have to heat the solution to dryness. So, evaporation gives us the solid substance in the form of a powder. Moreover, if any impurities were present in the dissolved solid substance, the same will be also be present when it's recovered by evaporation. It means the impurities will be there. But the technique which we are going to discuss today, crystallization, this is not the case in crystallization. The process of separation, that's crystallization, gives us the proper crystals, solid particles with flat sides. Crystal means a solid thing with flat sides, okay? So, this technique gives us proper crystals, and impurities also get removed in it. So, in a way, crystallization is a method of purifying solid substances in which the crystals of the pure substance are formed. And this process also begins by evaporating the liquid mixture by heating. But it's not continued till dryness. Rather, when the solution becomes sufficiently concentrated, that means saturated, okay? Heating is stopped, and then the hot concentrated solution is allowed to cool slowly, and after some time crystals of pure solid substance appear in the solution. So let's study the process of crystallization somewhat detail. So the process of cooling a hot concentrated solution of a substance to obtain crystals, it's called crystallization. And this technique is used for obtaining a pure solid substance from impure sample. And how it's done, you can take the impure solid substance and dissolve it in the minimum amount of water to form solution, okay? And then first of all, filter the solution to remove insoluble impurities, and then the clear solution is obtained. Gently heat it on a water bath till a concentrated solution or a saturated solution is obtained. And this can be tested by dipping a glass rod in hot solution from time to time. And what happens by dipping it, when small crystals form on the glass rod, you can get to know that okay, the solution is now saturated, and then you can stop heating. And then you have to allow the hot saturated solution to cool slowly, and you will obtain the crystals of pure salt are formed, and impurities remain dissolved in solution. So your crystals are pure substance. So then separate the crystals of pure solid by filtration and then dry it. And in this way you can have the pure substance from the mixture. So this method, this technique is used to obtain pure copper sulfate from an impure sample. Okay, or this this is a better technique than evaporation to dryness, right? So again, for obtaining impure copper sulfate, you need to take impure copper sulfate, dissolve it in a minimum amount of water to make a solution, and then first of all filter the solution to remove the insoluble impurities, and then heat the filtrate on a water bath and obtain a saturated solution. Again, you can test it by dipping a rod as I discussed it with you, and then stop heating, allow the solution to cool slowly, and crystals of copper, pure copper sulfate are formed, and impurities will remain behind the solution. In the solution, so then separate the pure sulfate crystals from solution by filtration, then dry it. Okay, so the process of crystallization is it's used to purify large number of water soluble solids. Even common salt that's obtained from seawater, as I discussed with you in previous lecture, that is obtained by evaporation. You can obtain common salt from seawater by filtration also, but here there you are having many impurities in it. Okay, so that can be purified by the process of crystallization also, and then you will have a pure common salt. So crystallization is better technique than evaporation because some solids decompose on heating to dryness during evaporation, and there is no such problem in crystallization. And the solid impurities do not get removed in the process of evaporation, but yes, such impurities can be removed in crystallization. So this is a better technique. Now the another technique is chromatography. Chromatography is a technique of separating two or more dissolved solids which are present in a solution in very small quantities. So the solids which are present in very small quantities, that can be separated by using chromatography technique. And there are many types of chromatography, but the simplest one which we are going to discuss is paper chromatography. By using paper chromatography, we can separate two or more different substances present in the same solution. But how this technique actually works? So let me tell you, students, the separation is based on the fact that though two or more substances are soluble in the same solvent, but their solubilities may be different. So this is based on the fact the solubilities of the substances are different. Some may be more soluble than the others. For example, if I'm having black ink, it contains a number of dyes dissolved in water. So these dyes will have different solubilities in water, right? So this fact is used to separate the dyes which are present in a black ink. Black ink, okay? It's most easy to perform chromatography experiments with the mixtures of colored materials like inks and other dyes because they separate to give colored components which can be easily seen as colored spots on the paper, right? And for this, a special type of paper that's called chromatographic paper, it's used for carrying out separations by chromatography. Yeah, for ordinary purposes, filter paper can also be used for paper chromatography experiments. So let's now describe the process of separation of a dissolved solid from a solution by paper chromatography. And here we are taking an example of a black ink because I told you it's a mixture of several colored substances which can be separated by paper chromatography. So first of all, take a thin and long strip of filter paper, draw a pencil line on it as drawn here. You can see a line here. This is a line. So the line should be 3 centimeter from one end, okay, about 3 centimeter. Then put a small drop of black ink on the filter paper, just a drop. uh, Put a small drop on the filter paper at the center of pencil line. It means where you have drawn a pencil line, put the small drop of black ink there. Okay, and let the ink dry. When the drop of ink has dried, filter paper is lowered into a tall glass jar. You need to put it into a tall glass jar which contains some water in its lower part. Okay, keep the pencil line at the bottom. Okay, so then insert the filter paper into the jar, and the filter paper is held vertically by attaching it at the upper end to a glass rod. And then remember one thing here, though you have to dip the lower end of the paper in water, but the pencil line that is having a dried ink spot, that should remain above the water level. Okay, don't dip the pencil line into the water, that should remain above the water level. Okay, then what happens, by capillary action, water gradually rises up the filter paper, and as water moves up the paper strip, it takes along the dyes which are present in ink. Like the dye which is more soluble in water dissolves first, rises faster, and then produces a colored spot on the paper at higher position. The less soluble dye dissolve a little later, rise slower, and form colored spots at lower heights. So in this way, all the dyes which are present in black ink, they get separated and form separate different colored spots. And see, when the water reaches near the top end, the paper strip is removed from the jar and you can dry it. Then The paper, you will get the paper with its separate colored spots. That paper with separate colored spots is called chromatogram. So the chromatogram obtained by using black ink in this experiment has three or more than three colored spots. It depends on the mixture you have used. If you are having a black ink, it will have three colored spots. That means three different dyes has mixed in it. So it's actually a very important tool in chemical analysis. It's used to separate small amounts of dissolved substances. Let me tell you, students, the most important application of chromatography is that it's used in forensic science to detect and identify trace amounts of substances like poisons in the content of bladder or stomach. We can use this technique there in forensic science department. In fact, it's used to separate small amounts of products of chemical reactions, and then it's used to separate solutions of colored substances, dyes, pigments. Okay, so this is a very important technique. Now, we can obtain a salt from seawater mixture by evaporation, right? But water cannot be recovered during evaporation, it's lost into the air, as I told you. But in order to recover both salt as well as water from salt water mixture, the process of distillation is used. Distillation is the process of heating a liquid to form vapor and then cooling the vapors to get back liquid. So both solid and liquid are separated and we recover both. But in case of filtration, we do not recover both, right? So distillation is a technique that you can use to recover both solid and the liquid. So the liquid obtained by condensing the vapor, it's called distillate. So we can say that in order to obtain both solid as well as liquid from the mixture, the process of distillation has to be used. Okay, and how it's done? Basically, it's actually the homogeneous mixture of solid and liquid, and it's heated in a closed distillation flask. And the liquid being volatile, it forms vapor, and the vapors of liquid are passed through a condenser where they get cooled and condensed to form pure liquid. So pure liquid is collected in a separate vessel, and the solid being non-volatile that remain behind in the distillation flask. Okay, so we'll describe it in detail, but before that we should know something about water condenser. It's also called Liebig condenser. And the water condenser or Liebig condenser, this you can see here, this is a Liebig condenser. It's a long glass tube surrounded by a wider glass tube having an inlet and outlet of water, you can see here. And during distillation, cold water from tap it's circulated through the outer tube of the condenser, and it this water takes away heat from hot vapors passing through the inner tube of condenser and then causes condensation. Okay, so now let's take an example of a salt and water mixture. We can separate salt and water by distillation and we can recover both. Again, you can take the mixture in a distillation flask. You are having here, it's a distillation flask, and then heat it. On heating, water forms vapors, you know it, they will rise up, and when water vapors will rise up, they come out through the side tube of the distillation flask and goes into the water condenser here. And cold water from the tap, it's circulated through the outer tube of the condenser for cooling down the vapors, and the hot vapors get cooled in condenser and form pure water, which trickles down here and get collected in the beaker. Okay, so this pure water is called distilled water, and since salt is non-volatile, it does not form vapor, so it will remain behind in the distillation flask. Okay, so we can say that distillation can be used to separate a liquid from dissolved non-volatile solids. Now, yes, ordinary tap water always contains some dissolved salts in it and is never pure. So pure water or distilled water, it's made from tap water by the process of distillation. So there are many coastal areas where drinking water is not available in adequate quantity. So the process of distillation is used to obtain drinking water from sea water in many countries. So distillation can be used to separate the mixtures of solid and the liquid. Okay, but let me tell you, it can be used to separate a mixture of two miscible liquids also. But there we are having a different type of distillation. We'll discuss that in the next lecture.